The next speaker that was referenced earlier by the center director is the historian here at Dryden. It's Christian Gelzer, excuse me, yeah. Let me introduce Christian Gelzer. Thank you.
Perspective, this is the second social that we've had, and we reached out for a new group so that we were actually reaching a larger audience than the last one. So you are the second group that we've had. We had a really good social the first time. We're really, really pleased to have you here. And we thank you for making the effort to come out here. We're thrilled to have you. Something else I was going to tell you, but it slips my mind at the moment. It'll come back to me in time. How do I control this? Is there a remote, or is it just you? Oh, let him. I'm going to mess it up. Oh, wait. So my point is to give you a little bit of perspective of why you're here, why we're here, because if you don't understand why we're here in the middle of this, I was going to say a stupid desert, but if you like it, like I do, then it's not a stupid desert. If you show up like you did and you're crying and you think like some people, oh my goodness, trust me, somebody did, whose wife, a guy came out here who loved being out here, and his wife, all she did was cry. You got to understand why. It was 1954, and he came home and she was weeping all the time. You can understand. There's a reason for being here. One of the reasons is when you go outside and you see the sky, you have about 350 days a year of weather like this. When you fly airplanes, this is what you want. When you fly airplanes, at least back then, and you didn't have runways, mind you, circa 1946, runways were a rarity. The majority of runways, or airports anyway, were large circular pans so that you could land in any direction. That lake bed out there is 44 some odd square miles. It's the ideal runway. It's the ideal landing spot. You can land in any direction. You always want to land kind of going into the wind. That's what you want. Perfect. World War II built runways all over the place, so that kind of made the necessity for runways superfluous. But in the emergency, that's what you get. So why are we here? It isn't strictly because of that orange X-plane, although that's the reason we came out here. Let's see if this works. Of course it doesn't work. My fault. All right. It's all my fault. It's a dead battery. Okay, we'll go to the next one. You're here. You see? Picture was taken by Gordon Fullerton, former astronaut, and then retired and came to work out here as a research pilot. You can see where you are. You're in the Antelope Valley. You're actually right here next to the lake bed. You can see it's a giant feature. You can see it from space. You can see different features of the California coast. You can see just what you can see from space. It's a nice picture. Next. This is where you are not. And where you wish you were. It's a beach. In the Coral Sea, in the island, one of the islands of Vanuatu. I've been there. It's gorgeous. It's where you want to be. But you're not. You're here. And you're happy you're here because it's Dryden. But why are you here and why are we here? That's the question to answer, so let's go find out. This is another picture of the lake bed. And you can see the multitude of runways they marked on the lake bed because it wasn't just a hard surface in the summer like concrete. They actually marked runways on which to land things. Another picture. I'm going to go stand over here. We are right about here. Doesn't actually, we're in this main building here. You can see a giant compass rose. It purports to be the largest compass rose on the planet. It's almost a mile across. It's an extraordinary geological feature. Next.
Why compass rose?
Compass. Why is it there? That's a good question. It's a tough one to answer even for a historian. We know when it appeared, circa 1953. We don't know exactly why it appeared. Compass roses appear, the purpose for compass roses on land anyway is to give pilots a reference point. And at this location, it's for pilots who are flying, one that size is for pilots who are flying at high altitude. Back then, 53 pilots are flying in excess of 70,000 feet. Some were getting well above that, meaning close to 90,000 feet. And a compass rose have been useful. This predates the X-15. That was the suspicion initially. But the date, when it appears, we know when it didn't appear, when it wasn't, and when it was. So we have about a 2-month period when it wasn't there and when it suddenly appeared. So we know when it shows up. It was about 53, it was about 6 years before the X-15. X-15 is a space vehicle, so we know that it didn't show up in connection with the X-15. So, but it's for pilots. And it's for pilots who are flying high altitude. Give them a reference point. So you can look outside the cockpit and see where you are and where you're not, and where specifically where you're going and where you're headed. A picture of the center, we're somewhere in the main building, actually, somewhere in this building up there. Anyway, next picture. So why are we here? This is why we're here. It's got nothing to do with that airplane over there, that orange airplane, in spite of what people say, the X-1. The reason we're here is the turbojet. Okay, see? The reason we're here is the turbojet. The same thing that actually, a variation of which gets you here by airline. Turbojet and its sibling, that's the British turbojet. Circa 1937, Frank Whittle. The original turbojet he designed comes out, or at least he designs in 1928. And the problem is that it's going to make an airplane fly fast. Now, the problem with flying fast is that the closer you get to the speed of sound, the more you're going to encounter problems that make the airplane uncontrollable. Propeller-driven airplanes, piston engine and propeller-driven airplanes can get you into trouble so that you start to have problems, but they're not going to get you so far into trouble that you're going to be able to answer the questions that you face. They'll kill you, but they won't be able to answer the questions that face you. This thing, however, is going to cause you trouble. Yeah, that's okay. Go ahead. So here's a cutaway. This is a German axial flow turbojet. One of the interesting ironies is that the Germans and the British developed turbojets independently and almost simultaneously, and both nations flew turbojet-powered aircraft during the Second World War. Ironically, the US was so far behind that, and we bring ourselves back to this very base, that the Army Air Forces had to buy licensed manufactured Whittle jet engines built by General Electric, bring them out here, put them into Bell aircraft, and fly them at this base as an experiment starting in 1942. Because the US did not have that technology.